sucked too this year.
Atlanta didn't score a run in a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Is the who came in as LG Stylo 6? Who is that?
No clue.
Louis Guerrero, maybe?
Oh, maybe. Okay. Yeah.
Can everybody hear us?
Yep.
Well,
Yeah. Hi, how you doing, everybody? Who is LG Style 6? Is that Luigi?
Can't hear you, whoever it is.
They don't have their mic turned off.
Okay, guys, just a couple of housekeeping things before we start the meeting. I just wanted to let everybody know that effective now, I'm going to be muting all the microphones except for the speakers. If you have anything to say, please use the chat window. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see an item that says chat right in the middle of the screen at the bottom, along the bottom, and we will be monitoring the chat screen for you. So
Not me.
So, well, you know, if you don't have a computer screen, you're not going to see it. So,
Okay.
Let's see. So here we go, guys. One moment, Paul. Paul, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
I did. I just did it right now.
Oh, yeah, good. I see it. Okay.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. I appreciate it. I do want to go over just a couple housekeeping items as Mike talked about, and I might review these at the end just in case and getting those people that come in a couple minutes late. First of all, with Arbiter, if you have, and we found this out with Rob, when you go into self-assign, just so you realize it, if you have a blocked date, self-assigned games are not going to come up on that date. So if you already blocked, say, you know, May 23rd or something like that, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, I'm going to go into self-assign and see what's available because I became open. You have to unblock yourself first, and then you can actually go into self-assign. The games will pop up. Secondly, with Arbiter, anytime that we send out a change, meaning a game time change, a site change, you know, like we just had a change right now from 4:30 to 7 o'clock for the Notre Dame game tomorrow night. You know, you're going to have to go into Arbiter and okay that just like if it was a regular assignment. And the reason for that is mainly to let the assigner know that you actually know that the game time has been changed. So please, you know, keep in mind that if game times are changed, that you go in there, or sites are changed. Sometimes there'll be a field change in regards to, like with St. Pat, sometimes they're moving games from Kerrywood to Reed Dunning Park. So we have to know that you're getting the change. And if I see, or if Dan sees, or I see that we don't see that you get it, most probably you're going to be getting a text in regards from us too, so that we know that you do that. With the IHSA, a couple things with the IHSA. Number one, you should have gotten an email from them about masks, okay, in regards to, you know, guidelines from, you know, the CDC and stuff like that. I had a conversation with Doug Turnick, who talked to all the athletic directors last Wednesday. They had an athletic directors meeting last Wednesday, and the league schools, and which is the schools that we assign, want us to continue wearing masks behind home plate. Okay, so if you're behind home plate, you need to wear a mask. Okay, no matter what anybody else tells you. Okay, the Catholic League schools have decided that they want the home plate umpire to wear a mask at all times. The base umpires, they would prefer you wear a mask, but they do understand that you're out there, you know, by yourself. So if you want to take your mask off, our preference from an organizational standpoint is that, you know, for your protection and everybody else's protection, that you wear a mask, okay? But the Catholic League is not going to decide in regards to what the base umpire is going to do. They would like you to wear a mask, but they're not going to say it's mandatory. Behind the plate, it's still mandatory to wear a mask. Now, for some of you that are in some other organizations like umps and stuff like that, you know, Jeff Siegel put out a bulletin that sort of this is opposite to what I just said in regards to what this Catholic League wants. So if you work for them, you can do whatever you want with umps, okay? They said that masks are not required. So, but with Catholic League games and East Suburban games, we want the home plate umpire to wear a mask, and we prefer the base umpire wear a mask. But that is, again, for bases is up to you. You should have gotten a second email from the IHSA this week about postseason, okay? Just so you are aware, the IHSA is allowing host schools to assign games for the regionals and the sectionals, all regionals and all sectionals. So 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. So the host school is going to be assigning games. Now we're thinking, and again, that email came out after my last conversation with Doug Turnick. I'm also going to talk to Doug about the situation about are those assignments going to be passed on to our organization? I think they will. I hope they will. So with that being said, it'd probably be a good idea that these are the dates for the IHSA postseason. The IHSA gave you the dates. For the first round, the quarterfinals of the regional is 6-2 and 6-3. For the semifinals, it's 6-4, June 4th and June 5th. And then the finals for regionals are going to be on June 7th. For the sectionals, the first round of games in the sectionals are the 9th and the 10th, the 9th or the 10th, or the 11th or the 12th. So if it played on the 9th, it'd probably be played on the 11th. If it played on the 10th, it'll probably be played on the 12th, okay? So those are the dates that I would suggest that you sort of keep free from if you're starting to do, whatever else you're doing. If you want assignments in regards to that, I would suggest that you keep those free. Again, we will find out in regards to what the expectations are, from the league schools in regards to how the CCUA will be involved in the procedure, okay, with all of our teams. I would think that a lot of our teams would be hosting games because, obviously they are very good. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of assignments, either 2-man assignments or 3-man assignments. Again, 2-man and 3-man is going to be left up to the host school. Lastly, I received an email from Tracy Sprout at the IHSA. And here's what the deal is. If you get a new member, not a new member to our organization, but a new umpire, okay? Every organization is going to be allowed 2 free umpires that are new to the IHSA. They might, if they're umpire for umps now, or they umpire for Fox Valley Blues now, or IOA, they don't count. They have to be new umpires, okay? If you know a person that wants to be involved for the first time, every organization is allowed to put in 2 umpires for free for next year. They would not have to pay dues with the IHSA. So if you hear of somebody that's interested in becoming an umpire, okay, they would then move on to that. Now I'm going to talk to I just got this email on Thursday from Tracy, or Friday from Tracy. It was Friday. I got it Friday from Tracy because we had a board meeting on Thursday night. I'm going to suggest to our board, if you find this person, okay, I'm going to suggest that we give you half off our association dues for next year. That would be my proposal to the board, which we can talk about at our next meeting. So, with that being said, I hope you realize that is the plan in regards to what we're doing. Again, these umpires have to be new to the sport, okay? And we are a baseball organization, so they would have to say that they're new to baseball in regards to new to umpiring, okay? So just so you know that, that would be the case. I am unsure if they referee football now. I don't know if they fit this criteria. I'm going to send an email to Tracy about that to find out that they have to be new altogether, a new member to the IHSA. So those are my updates in regards to what I had, the 2 on Arbiter and the 2 in regards to sectionals and regionals, and then also the new officials. Other than that, I'd like to turn it over now to Mike Mislowski.
Oh, I'm up. Okay. Well, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a report on our CCUA Hall of Fame. Jay Reardon is also in the house. Let me find Jay here so I can unmute him. All right. Jay, can you
I'm
say
here.
a couple of words?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that I had here, we've been talking about it, the four of us, in separate emails and such. And one of the things we're going to do is we will probably have some. These are the people that are on the committee. There's me as one of the current board members, and then Jay, Steve, and Kevin, all former board members of the CCUA, are on the committee. And basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be meeting either tomorrow or Tuesday, early next week, or later the following week, because I'm going to be out on vacation during the middle of the week to mid next week. So what we've got here, one of the things we discussed, many of the things we discussed, were the founding members should probably all be admitted into the Hall of Fame, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. And then a couple of the suggestions that I had for the guys that we're going to bring up for discussion when we have our conference call. The founding members, we've got that, the CCUA alumni. So as far as the alumni go, those are people who would be eligible, maybe people that are currently umpiring primarily in the college ranks or in minor and Major League Baseball. I think we've got one member that used to be in the CCUA that's in the major leagues, and that's John Tumpane. Then another one I thought might be a great idea would be to have CCUA Umpire of the Year. And then once again, we have to discuss all the criteria for this. And then one of the things that, you know, we want to definitely take care of are the people that provide services and assistance and any kind of resources they can offer to the betterment of our organization. And those could be athletic secretaries in the various athletic departments, you know, right down to people that assist us at the games, you know, when we go to the games on a week-to-week, on a daily basis. Anybody that does anything that is contributing to the betterment of our association. And then, you know, last but not least, I mean, this is what I'm proposing. If anybody has any suggestions, I would like you to please send those to me, or send them to any one of the four of us, and we will consider it at when we start meeting, or I should say when we have our final meeting and get everything worked out. Final meeting is probably a misnomer, because we're going to keep meeting as long as we need to get this all straightened out. And to expand on that a little bit, Jay, would you like to say a few things about what we were talking about with what the COA does?
Yeah, you know, I have a 40-year association with the COA. I know Kevin does also. And there's been a well-functioning Hall of Fame in that organization. And I won't get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I will say that when I've talked with the present and more former board members than present ones, but it's one of the most contentious issues for a board. Now, the COA is two sports, football and basketball. But in the end, it comes down to, you know, evaluation of, just like Mike outlined, who has benefited our organization. It could be the guy that just showed up on time for all his games and never got a problem with anybody, and maybe he only did a few playoff games. But this was a guy that, you know, just like our association, you're dependent on people to follow through with their obligations. So it doesn't have to be anything very spectacular, but you know, one of the points that I wanted that I made with Mike was that in the end, and it may be counterintuitive to committee type work, but when you're coming up with parameters and limitations and things like that, the allowing the board to have flexibility seems to be paramount. And I don't want people to run wild with it as far as, well, you know, you could have anybody in the association. It won't be like that. We'll have our founding members, we'll recognize our founding members, we'll come up with a procedure that the board can vote on people that, you know, we don't want our board having to vote on members on the board. I think that would be very awkward, wouldn't serve our members very well. But people that would be in our Hall of Fame would be more than welcome to serve on our board. You know, people that are, you know, our founding members, we might be able to solicit in a formal way to say, hey, here's a guy that you know about. Or in fact, one of the things the COA does is they compile a little bit of a history, a short bio of the individual that's being presented to the board. So it takes a little time. You got to make a couple phone calls, you know, talk to people, not just the candidate, but other people that you know worked with the official. And, you know, so there's some investment in this, that any one of our members can submit somebody and say, hey, you know, maybe someone wasn't aware of it, but we've got a guy here that's been out there plugging away for 30 years. I think there's no secrets in our baseball membership. Everybody knows who's been out there, who started everything, who's been, you know, dependable for, you know, resolving any kind of issue that we had. So, but circling back to flexibility, that may be one of the things that will ultimately leave to the board. Give them a wide enough bandwidth to say, yeah, there's a guy like John Pompane. I'll tell you truthfully, John was brought up a couple times to the COA because John did Catholic League basketball at the time when he was in the low minors. So, and he was rejected, and he was rejected by a sizable vote on their board. It has nothing to do with you know, personal appreciation for John. You know, they had their reasons, but again, when you have your reasons and your guy doesn't win, sometimes that causes contention. So we're mindful of all these things, and I think Mike and Steve and Kevin and myself, we've been associated with these other organizations for a while, and I think we'll come up with something that'll be very credible for our organization and very inclusive. And that'll be it.
All right, thanks very much, Jay. So remember, guys, if you have any questions, definitely you can email them to me. I'm on my email address is on the website. Email them to anybody on the current board or any of the guys up here. And pretty much, you know, because we've all been dealing with the membership the past few years, our names and email addresses are there. Like I said, mine is up there, you know, on the website for my email address because I'm no longer in the IHSA registry. And of course, if when in doubt, you can always send something to any of the current board members, okay? All right, with that, I'm going to turn it back to Paul. Paul, it's all yours.
Okay, Rob, I'm going to turn it over to Rob. It's all Rob's.
Hey, we want to do the treasurer's report first, I suppose, and you want to do professionalism, or you want to talk about rules first?
Whatever you want to do.
All right, let's just do them both. From a treasurer's standpoint, I'm going to share the screen here. From a treasurer's standpoint, we currently have about $2,700 in the account. And currently, I think I saw we have about 21 or 22 members online right now for the meeting. So we're not trying to bribe anybody for showing up. We do appreciate everybody being here. So we will be getting you, again, if you attended meeting 1, you got a plate brush. Meeting 2 got the lineup card. I believe that's the way it went. Meeting 3, you will get, essentially it's a shaving kit. It's a nice small bag that you can put your indicator, plate brush, you know, your COVID mask in there, not your plate mask, but your COVID mask. lineup card, extra pens, papers, things like that in there. So it's a great spot to keep everything in one spot. And again, we appreciate everybody participating in tonight's meeting. So thanks again for being here. I see some new faces here. So what I'd like to do is quickly go over some professionalism things. Let me move my screen around here. Get that out of the way. We covered this at the clinic, but one of the things you have to remember, especially young officials, is every move you make is probably being documented by either, in the case of a varsity game, the varsity games are generally streamed. And they're captured, and coaches go back and look at plays and players and situational things for training purposes for their team. But I've had coaches, come out and chirp about a call, and then give me a call the next day and say, you had that one right, but you did miss the one in the 6th inning. So they always seem to have to get their jabs in. So whether the game is being documented by a live stream, by a professional or a student camera crew, or mom or grandma in the stands in the case of a freshman game or an underclass game, assume that everything you're doing is being documented. So we want to make sure, as we talk really quick this evening, and again, I did this at the clinic, we'll go over it really quick again as a reminder here. Make sure that you are not only representing the association in the game of baseball, but really representing yourself as a true official. You want to look the part. We talk about fitness and health. The only thing I have from a fitness standpoint and a health standpoint is if you are a smoker, please take that into account. I know I am not, but I played ball, and I can appreciate the umpire who had the last smoke on his way out to the field, and this is in the days before masks. So now again, the COVID mask can buy you a little bit of time here. But if you're a smoker, just take that into account. How far in advance you can smoke before you head out on the field to be with the young players. Appearance we'll talk about in detail. Rule knowledge and application. I did have a coach. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Responsibilities and duties, and contracting. And I think we'll talk about the contracting part. I'm pretty sure that Paul may or may not have some more things to add about the arbiter later, or about the assignment. So when we talk about personal growth, everybody thinks they're a varsity umpire. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. But again, we're not just looking for how good your strike zone is and how well you move across the field, but we also take into account how you interact with players, how you interact with coaches, and again, your appearance. That has a lot to add into it. Always look to continue your education, ask questions, find a mentor. Rich Panovich, I always lean on Rich, and I wish everybody would from a rule standpoint also. If you are a young official and you do not know anybody else in the association and you need a mentor, Rich, I'm sure would be happy to either take you on or hook you up with another more seasoned veteran of the organization here. It's all about growing. We have some great young guys in the association. We're glad to see some new, some youth in. I know the coaches are excited to see some youth also. So it just means longevity of the association moving forward. Self-evaluation. After your game, get to the car. Sit down. I always recommend you take a lawn chair with you. Sit down while you're changing clothes, 10 or 15 minutes at your car after the game. Think about that play or those plays that you had where you may have been out of position. You may have wanted to do something a little bit different. If it was a rule question, call somebody, ask for help on your drive home. Hey, I had this happen. What do you think? But certainly look inside yourself, look deep inside your heart and go, what did I do right today? And more importantly, where do I need to get better? What can I do to improve my own game here? From an appearance standpoint, look the part. I talked about everything being captured by video. I've had a few things shared with me that I'll pass on. No names, it's not important. It doesn't matter where you were, who it is, etc. Look the part, pressed and polished. No wrinkles in the pants. Guys, don't, as I said at the clinic, don't be the guy who pulls the pants out from under the McDonald's bag in the back seat and says you're ready to go, because you're not. You can be the best umpire around. If you don't present well, coaches will see right through that. Shoes are shined before every game, not just on Sundays, and then by Friday they're a mess again. Give them a quick dust if you have to, a quick little shot of Armor All, Pledge, whatever you might use. Dust them up, get them ready to go. Plate shoes are a must. They're going to protect you. The foul balls come down, hit your toes. If you're wearing base shoes or something behind the plate, you do run the risk of injuring yourself. So please get a set of plate shoes and utilize those. I'm not necessarily a frugal guy, but I do like my plate shoes. I've had them probably 11 years. I scrub them after every game with water, and I do use Armor All, and I clean them up. They've lasted me a long time, and they're very, very comfortable. So I know that all of this is a big expense, but please, look the part. And again, I know plate shoes are $150 or so, but they're a must. And again, these, if you can, these are pretty wrinkled pants here. I'd say, just get them pressed. Even if your base pants, you don't have to wash them after every use. Take them to the cleaners once a week, have them pressed. It's $3.60 to have a pair of pants clean. It's cheap, and you don't even have to worry about it. You don't have to do it. First impressions are critical. I personally like to know the coach's first name. I'm not a fan of Hey Blue. I had Mount Carmel and Marist the other day, and it was Brian and Kevin, and it was Rob and Drew. And I think if there is a need for a conflict, a resolution to happen, or if a coach just has a question, hey, Rob, hey, Brian, hey, Drew, I have a question for you. And I think it does, it right away, when you're talking more on a personal basis, it does bring the level of intensity down just a little bit, which is good. Don't forget his name. There's nothing worse than having a coach introduce himself at home plate as Mike, and then later on you call him Jim. That can be pretty embarrassing for everybody. And don't joke around at home plate. Sometimes in game 2, if they're going to play a JV game or something, the coaches may, want to have a little chit chat about, wow, you really kicked my butt in game 1 or something. But for the most part, it's not, you can react to a joke, that's fine, but you're not there to tell jokes. You're not there. It's not the good old boys club. It's not for you to be joking around with the coaches. You're there to play a role, and that is to be a professional. So keep your emotions as level-headed and even keel as you possibly can. All right. Don't be this guy, please. With the hoodie and the hand and the sweatshirt and the black pants and no hat. Essentially, don't be this guy. I think we can all appreciate that. Wear the proper uniforms and patches. We are wearing gray pants. They're umpire pants. They're not Dockers. They're not dress pants from Target. You can go to Jerry Davis. You can go to Honig's. You can go to Purchase Officials. There's a number of companies out there that sell gray umpire pants. Don't worry about if they're the Jerry Davis this or the Fleisch or this. Just any gray umpire pants will certainly do the job for you. Shirts. We're all going to black now. The IHSA does not recognize black for the postseason. You'll still be in blue. So I would highly recommend that you get a black shirt and a blue shirt with the IHSA logo on the sleeve. Companies will put that logo on the sleeve for you for a small fee. If you have the patch, put it on your sleeve. You are allowed to have a flag on your other sleeve also. What you will not have on your shirt is the Major League logo, the NCAA logo, your local Little League or Sandlot League logo. That will not be on your shirt. Again, these are IHSA games. These are Illinois High School Association games. You are sanctioned and licensed by the IHSA. They don't want to see your Little League shirt, and you're certainly not a Major League umpire. So these shirts will just have the IHSA logo. And you will have an IHSA hat. Again, no Major League hats. If you're a member of the IOA, great. Member of umps, great. Don't wear their hats. Wear either an IHSA hat or, in a pinch, wear a plain blue or a plain black hat. That hat will match your shirt. If you're wearing blue, you're wearing blue. If you're wearing a black shirt, wearing a black hat. But anyway, make sure that everything matches. Again, it's just a level of professionalism. Make sure you carry an extra uniform. You never know. You could talk to your partner the night before and decide you're wearing black, and then on the way to the game, your partner can't make it, and your new partner shows up and you're wearing blue, and then you don't have the right clothes. You could pull a pair of pants out, and while you're putting them on, the zipper breaks, and now you don't have a right pair of pants. So please carry all of your clothes with you. Bring all of your gear. Just because you don't have the plate doesn't mean you shouldn't bring all of your gear. You never know if your partner, pulled a muscle on the way coming from the office. Your partner could be late, and you could be starting the game by yourself. So carry all of your gear, no matter what you've talked about with your partner. Keep it all with you at all times. And lastly, for this part, is you need to feel good about yourself. Be able to look in the mirror, stand tall, and say, "Yeah, I'm ready to go. I've done the best job I can today to look professional, and I'm ready to get out there and do a good job." This is the back of my car. You think I'm anal about baseball? Sorry. But again, it's like this, and Mike Slawinski put a thing on Facebook that pretty much from March 12th until the end of June, this is what my car looks like. That's just the way it is. That's baseball. Rule knowledge, know and study the rules frequently. Keep an eye on those. There's some new rules that are out this year at the DH we'll be talking about later. Do not assume you know everything. There's a lot of crazy things that can happen in a game. The rules will guide you. Always ask yourself questions. When you're having your pregame, I like to just run some things past my partner. I'm like, hey, I had this happen last week. What do you think? It's a great time to just talk a little baseball. Review all the rule changes. Make sure you're up on those. Responsibilities and duties. Understand your responsibilities as an official, your pre-contest and post-contest responsibilities. Confirming assignments with your partner, confirming assignments with your school, etc. Be honest with all your parties, your coaches, participants, assigners. If you're sick, you're sick. If you're hurt, you're hurt. Don't call your assigner and lie to them and say, yeah, you know, I'm really not feeling well. And then they find out that you took a different game or what you may consider to be a better game. That is not going to work in this association or any, quite frankly. Admit when you make a mistake, but if mistakes keep happening, something needs to change. You can always, if you kick a call in the first inning, eat it, kick it. Coach wants to come out, tell him straight up, Coach, I kicked it. If you kick another one in the third and fourth and seventh, you need to search a little bit harder for what you may be doing wrong. All right. So, but again, if you made a mistake, admit you made the mistake and you can move on. All right. And do not be a showboat. The best officials are the ones that are noticed. You can be in the parking lot pulling away and nobody even knows who you are. And that's the way you want it to be. That's a success. Duties, keep quiet. I always brought up, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything. And remember that you can't quote silence. So if you get into a confrontation with a coach, fan, anything else, just eat it. Just answer the question and move on. Be realistic about your own talents. Again, we talked about seeking out other officials to critique your performance after a game. How did I do? How was my zone? The Mount Carmel game the other night, Drew told me straight up, he's like, there are a couple calls I think I would have got the strike on. All right. So, you know, we all have those dates. We're doing the best we can, but always look to improve. And again, as I said before, assume everything you do is being documented or recorded, because it is. I can assure you it absolutely is. Everybody's got phones, cameras, etc. Use your proper mechanics. For example, a closed fist is no count, not full count. And there's other things. So again, just use your mechanics, talk to your partner before the game. Maintain consistency in interpreting and enforcing rules. If your strike zone is going to be up a little bit, it better be up a little bit all 7 or 9 innings or whatever you're doing. Just you can't be inconsistent, bouncing around and moving around in that strike zone. You got to stay consistent wherever it's going to be. When you're doing a 2-man game, be a great partner. If a coach comes out to you and go, wow, your partner's struggling on the plate, your comment should be, yeah, I know. That's not the way you throw your partner under the bus. It's not what it's about. You know, a good answer for that is, hey, we're all working as hard as we can right now. And I'm sorry you feel that way, but we're working as hard as we can to make sure the game goes on, the kids get to play. And that's it. Turn around and walk away. All right. And take your turn on the plate. Don't be the guy that sits in the parking lot on the other side and waits to see the gray trailblazer pull in and waits, as your partner looks around frantically and says, wow, I thought you were going to be on the plate. And then you come pulling up at the last minute and say you got tied up. Take your turn on the plate and share the wealth a little bit. Actually, I prefer doing plates. I actually find them to be kind of fun. So, but get out there and take your turn on the plate. Use appropriate language. We are not using profanity. If the coach wants to use profanity with you, we have to react accordingly. We are not going to go to that level. Really quick here. Be organized. Run your officiating like your own business, because it is. Guys, other associations are not at the rate, the game rate that we are. I compliment and thank the powers to be, Paul and those before him that have got us to the rates that we're at right now. We are paid very well for high school games, at least in Illinois. I don't care about Arizona, California, maybe they make more. For what we do in the area that we're in, we get paid very, very well. So again, spend a little bit of the money, buy the gear, but keep track of your payables too. Call your partner 2 days before and confirm with your partner who's doing what colors you're going to wear. Just make sure you're on the same page. I personally called my partner on Friday for my Monday game, and my partner said, oh crap, I can't work Monday. All right. So luckily I I just happened to notify him, and he was able to realize that he had overlooked a game that he wasn't going to be able to do. So call your partner a couple days in advance. Then contact the school the day before the game to ensure that you have the right time and location. If you end up at St. Lawrence and you belonged at St. Rita, that is your fault, not theirs probably. If you called or you have an email from the school that says, hey, I'm in the right spot, then you know you're in the right spot. Look at that email again, make sure you're there. But if you don't confirm with the school 24 hours beforehand, and you end up in the wrong spot, or you end up where there's no game, that really is on you. All right. If you are assigned a doubleheader, it means that there are 2 games. Do not ask coaches to shorten game 2. I recently had a situation where game 1 went about almost 3 hours, and the question was, are there any time limits on game 2? And the answer is no. You contracted for a doubleheader. Sorry, it's baseball. It's not a time game. If you're there for 6 hours, you're there for 6 hours. We all hope that doesn't happen, but there are no time limits on games in the IHSA. Do not ask the coaches between game 1 and 2, gee, that was a 3-hour game. Can we shorten game 2? Don't do it. It's not worth it. If they want to do it, if they want to take that into account for their schedules, their players, whatever else, that's between the coaches, not you. And guys, no cell phones on the field. If you are expecting an important call your assigner and say, listen, I'm expecting an important call between 4:30 and 7 this evening, tomorrow evening, whatever. I think I better give a pass on that game. But again, guys, no cell phones on the field. This is IHSA baseball. I've talked before about cameras. I don't know that any members of the IHSA in Bloomington are going to fire up the computer and take a look at your particular game, but you never know. You just don't know who's watching. So please, no cell phones on the field. Pay attention to what's going on. And I guess I'll just have a quick, Paul, were you going to address this, or did you want me to, we don't talk about this now?
Yeah, you can talk about it. Go
All
right
right.
ahead.
I know everybody is muted right now, but from a level of professionalism, we have a duty to the game, guys. And when we talk about the ground rules, we should be telling the coaches that the dugouts are there. Rich Panovich could quote, it's his quote, but he was like, hey, if Lou Piniella can coach inside the dugout, so can you. Apparently these 2 coaches, from wherever they're at, it's irrelevant. They look pretty comfy with their lawn chair and everything else. But unfortunately, they don't belong there. Okay. And it is your job as an umpire to enforce that. If you let that get out of hand, it's the old give him an inch, take a mile. He's there. You never know, he could end up taking another step toward home plate, or he's going to step down in front of the dugout. That has to be enforced immediately. First pitch, first inning, guys, get rid of the lawn chair, get it back in the dugout. Right? This just is part of professionalism, because that's the visiting team. The home team who's on the other side is going to say, well, they're out of their dugout, so we can come out of our dugout, and now you're in a jackpot. When this with preventative officiating and professionalism and proper communication, you can, at the pregame, hey, keep everybody, we got nice dugouts here, keep everybody down inside the dugout. Coaches, that includes you. Both coaches will go, yeah, I understand, but you got their acknowledgement at the pregame, and at that point, all you got to do is look over and, coach, we talked about this in pregame, pick up the lawn chair, get down to the dugout, right? So there really should be no questions about this, but now, if you let that go, how do you go correct that? That's the key is. So you got to get this early. And that's all I have on professionalism, guys. Again, I'm a stickler on pressed pants and polished shoes. So please look your best. Thanks to all the young umpires for doing what you're doing right now. We greatly appreciate you being out there, and take more games where there's a lot more baseball out there. Paul?
Thank you very much, Rob. I just want to reiterate the whole thing what Rob said in being consistent in regards to making sure that coaches can't tell us, well, on Monday the umpire said that we could sit out here, and then on Wednesday the umpire said we can't sit out here. Okay, because that's when the call is going to be taken to the assigner, and it's really simple. All I got to do is look to see who's on the game and figure out what the situation is. So please make sure that you go over these things in your pregame meeting. Make sure that you implement the rules and be consistent in regards to if it's a pitcher stance, or if it's the new DH rule, or if it's just ground rules in regards to that. We are all consistent in regards to how we're doing it from game to game. So thank you, Rob. That was a great presentation in regards to professionalism, and hopefully people can write down a couple things. Even the most experienced umpires can take a couple things from that presentation and write a couple things down. So good job. Rich, let's turn it over to you now. We have a few things in regards to umpire education that we want to go over per our discussion.
Okay, let's start out with this week's two questions, quiz questions. The quiz questions that came out in the email yesterday needed to be a little bit cleaned up. Okay, so we've got a new wording here, and let's just read these. The first one says, in the bottom of the 10th inning with 2 out and a tie score, B3 hits a home run over the fence, but he misses second base on his way around. F8, the center fielder, is the only defensive player on the field. He notices this and verbally appeals to the base umpire about the missed base. All right, the choices. The appeal will not be recognized since F8 is the only defensive player on the field. B, B3 is out. The game moves to the 11th inning. Or C, since the ball became dead, the pitcher must get on the pitching rubber with the new ball and the plate umpire must put the ball back in play. Or D, when the ball becomes dead, runners are not required to touch bases. All right, the correct answer here is A, okay? Because the infielders and the pitcher are not in fair territory, it is too late to appeal. The game is over and the home run will count despite the missed base. The rule reference on that is 825. Many years ago, probably prior to almost everybody that's on this Zoom call, D was correct. There was a time when a batter hit a ball over the fence, technically he could miss each base and not be penalized, but that is not the case anymore. That was changed quite a number of years ago. So if anybody has any questions on that, just put them in the chat and we'll get back to them and answer your questions. Question number 2 says, prior to the game, the home team coach tells the umpire he will have a uniform substitute sit in the bleachers behind home plate to chase foul balls to help speed up the game. Okay, choices. A, good idea because pace of play is important. We always hear about pace of play. B, if the opposing coach agrees, it's fine. C, illegal. Non-participating players must be in the dugout or bullpen. And D, it's okay, but that player will be ruled ineligible to participate in the contest. And the correct answer, of course, is C. That is illegal. Rule 331 tells you that players must be in the dugout or the bullpen during live ball action. If anybody, like I said, if anybody has questions on either one of those two, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to a few other issues that were brought up either in the last, since games have started, or just ideas that we think maybe need to be gone over. Apparently there was a question during the early part of the season about the number of warm-up pitches a pitcher was allowed. Now we know the rule book says that prior to the game, prior to the first inning, each pitcher is allowed 8 warm-up pitches. If a new pitcher comes in the game, he's allowed 8 warm-up pitches. Once the pitcher is in the game, when they come out for the next inning, they're allowed 5 warm-up pitches. All of these situations are within a time frame of 1 minute. So if the pitcher delays or he wants to tie his shoes between warm-ups or whatever, he doesn't automatically get that number of pitches. However, there is some common sense here, okay? If it's brutally cold, a day like today where the temperature was in the low 40s, and the pitcher requests an extra pitch or two, if he's doing it in good time, give him the extra pitch. We don't want guys to get hurt, okay? If the guy hustles out there, and you can tell your catcher this in the very first inning, if your pitcher hustles out because he's a guy that likes to throw a couple extras, that's fine. If he can get 9 pitches in, or, you know, between innings, if he can get 6 or 7 pitches in between, within a minute, that's okay. Yes, as an umpire, I'm going to count the pitches and I'm going to remind the catcher Next one's going down. Also, I will have a problem with that catcher if I tell him, as he's throwing the ball back to the pitcher, next one's going down. Now he catches the next pitch, throws it back to the pitcher, and says, we're going down. In other words, he's taken 2 after I've told him 1. I'm going to cut that off quickly. That's not going to happen a second time in the game, because now he's just being defiant of what you've asked him to do. But like I said, if the weather requires it, and the pitcher is doing his due diligence and wanting to be out there and getting the job done, we're not going to have a big issue with that extra pitch. Okay. Rob mentioned about the doubleheader going 3 hours. Don't evaluate your games based on how long they took. You know, a great game can be 13 innings, or a terrible game can be 2 hours. It just depends on how the game is played. But don't evaluate it on how much time you spend out there. If that's an issue for you, you're in the wrong business. Okay, the rule reference on that is 851. Excuse me, no, not 851, 622. And there's an exception written in the rule book which talks to you about inclement weather and so on. Next point. Yes.
Noah Kaufman had a question.
Okay.
He wanted to know if that minute starts from when the previous inning is over or from when the pitcher takes the mound.
It's supposed to start when all the defensive players are off the field. In other words, when everybody gets off the field, now the new defense is coming on the field. That's when it's supposed to start. We know at the collegiate level, a stopwatch is used. It's 90 seconds, but all the collegiate games I worked since we implemented the stopwatch rule, I think once in about 5 years did I ever have to say, hey, we're beyond the 90 seconds, let's go. It just doesn't happen that often. Now, I know at the high school level, teams don't hustle on and off the field as much as they do at the collegiate level. And sometimes they need to be reminded. You'll find out working at different schools that some schools, that's a point of emphasis with the coach. Those of you who remember Frank Anzer at Andrew High School, at his practices, he used to have, when he scrimmage, when the third out was made, if the outfielders weren't all across the foul line within 10 seconds after the third out being made, they had to go back out on the field for 3 more outs. That's how he taught his kids how to hustle on and off the field. And we always had the fastest games at Andrew because they had good teams and they knew how to hustle. But then you get other schools where they procrastinate. So you just have to understand who you're with. But to answer that question, I'm not going to nitpick 4 or 5 seconds. Let's put it that way. But yes, if a kid's getting on and off the field like he's supposed to, he shouldn't have any problem getting those warm-up pitches in within that minute. Okay. Any other questions yet, Mike?
Yeah, Paul wanted to point out that the college rule about the sitting in the stands is different than IHSA for any of our college adjunct officials that are on the call. Paul, would you like to elaborate?
No, I just wanted to point that out just so that we know that the college rule is a little bit different there. And then also, Rich, with the pitcher situation that we had with the scenario earlier in the year, it was an injury situation that occurred.
Okay.
And I just wanted to point that out.
Yes, thank you. When a pitcher has to come out of the game for injury, the new pitcher gets as much time as he needs within reason to get ready. Okay, he hasn't been in the bullpen warming up. He might have been coming from the outfield, from another defensive position, or from the dugout, but he hasn't been throwing. So he gets what he needs, especially if it's cold weather. And there's no time limit, there's no number limit. Now, you also have to have some common sense. If he's standing out there and he's throwing 30 pitches, waiting for it to start raining or waiting for it to get dark because his team has a lead, then you'd be a little smart. But for the most part, you certainly don't tell a new pitcher who hasn't been warming up, he only gets 8 pitches. You're asking for trouble. Okay, you're asking for that kid maybe to get hurt. You're getting the coach on the wrong side of you for sure. and you're not enforcing the rules the way they're supposed to be enforced. Thanks for bringing that up, Paul.
And then last thing with that, the injury warm-ups need to take place on the actual pitcher's mound, not
Yes.
in the bullpen.
Correct. Okay. All right. Next point I wanted to talk about is batters stepping out of the batter's box when the pitcher's in his windup. Okay. There's two aspects to this that I want to talk about. One is rules and one is administration. How, as an umpire, we should handle this situation. First and foremost, when a batter requests time and you think he's requested time too late, the pitcher's already started his delivery and you don't want to give him time at that point. And now the pitcher hesitates in any way. The first thing you should do is call time. Okay? Put your hand up, time, tell the hitter, I'm not going to give you time, but you're also not going to enforce a balk because the hitter is trying to induce a balk, and we do not allow that to happen. Now, the rules are a little bit different here, okay? And I'll be honest, it's a rule I'm not crazy about. If the batter takes a foot out of the box, 1 foot out of the box, and the pitcher throws the pitch, no matter where that pitch is at, you're supposed to ring up a strike. The ball stays alive. So here's a crazy scenario. Batter does this, there's a runner on base, the pitcher throws a wild pitch 10 feet over the batter's head. The runner goes to the next base, but you still enforce a strike. You're going to look like an idiot, but that's the rule. Now, if the batter takes 2 feet out of the batter's box and does this, and the pitch comes in, number one, you call a strike on the pitch, and you also call a strike because he's taken 2 feet out of the box. I would never want to have to do that, okay? Because it's going to result in an argument, and it's going to be ugly. But that is what the rules say. That is 624, Rule 624. Your best bet is to call time. Don't let this situation happen. That's the best way to handle it. Any question on that, or anybody want to add to that? Okay. Batter interference on a stolen base attempt. And this has always been a bone of contention. For some reason, an awful lot of coaches think that the batter's actions have to be intentional. So they have kids swing and miss and then act like they're stumbling over the plate. They've lost their balance, and as if to say, well, I didn't do it on purpose. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be intentional. If the batter's actions interfere with the catcher's attempt to make a play on a runner, that is interference, okay? And there's different ways to enforce this rule. The batter, if it's a third strike, okay, the batter is out, and the runner can also be called out if you think it prevented the catcher throwing that man out. If there's not 2 strikes on the hitter, it's less than 2 strikes, it's dead ball. You stop the play, you call the batter out, and you return the runner to the base. There is an exception on plays at the plate. If the runner is from third is trying to steal home. Now, you call the runner out. Okay? Unless there are 2 outs, in which case you would call the batter out. Does everyone follow that? Now, there does not have to be contact in order for there to be interference. If he leans over the plate, falls over the plate, whatever, and the catcher's actions, his normal rhythm of throwing the ball down to second base are interrupted, that's interference. And yes, there's judgment involved. There's also a difference between a runner stealing second base and a runner stealing third base. If a runner's stealing third base, the catcher has to decide, am I throwing behind the hitter or am I throwing in front of the right-handed hitter? The hitter, if he's coached properly, he stands right where he is in the batter's box and does not move. He does not have to make an attempt to get out of the way. Matter of fact, if he does make an attempt to get out of the way, if he steps back thinking the catcher's going to throw in front of him and he backs up and the catcher was going to go behind him, that would be interference because he has done an action to prevent the catcher from making the play. So when there's a steal at third base, it's a lot different. If the catcher comes up and the batter is just standing in the box and he can't throw because the batter's there, that's the catcher's fault. He needs to be coached how to get around that hitter to make the throw. I think I've got that covered. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything or question, but I'm going to move on and we can go back to it if there are questions. That's 735, Rule 735, page 45 in the Federation Rule Book. Courtesy runners. Okay, we've had some coaches and some umpires question the new rule about courtesy runners. We've gone over it a number of times. Let me go over it again. It's really not that complex. If there is a DH, a pitcher DH, or a catcher DH, okay, you cannot courtesy run for the catcher or the pitcher. You can pinch run, but if you do that, you are losing the role of the DH, not the player, but the role of the DH for the duration of the game. Any position player DH, if he is run for or pinch hit for, if he's replaced offensively, the role of the DH ceases for that team. Now, the player still has re-entry possibilities, but not as a DH. So if coaches want to let their catchers run or let their pitchers run and they want to DH for that position, that's fine. But when you get that lineup card, at least for a year or two, I would suggest if it says catcher DH or pitcher DH, I would tell them right in the pregame when I see that lineup card, now you can't courtesy run for that guy without losing the DH. Because a lot of coaches aren't going to be aware of that, and I think you're doing the right thing by telling them right up front. They may want to change that lineup card right then and there. Okay? Now, if they're using a straight 9-man lineup or a 10-man lineup if they're using a 10-man lineup with a DH for some other position player, they can courtesy run for the pitcher or courtesy run for the catcher. If that's not the man who's being DH for, that's fine. If they pinch run for the DH, he stays as a DH if it's a 10-man lineup, if they want to re-enter him. But if it's a position player / DH, and he is pinch run for or pinch hit for, they no longer have a DH. That's about as simple as I can make it. And that's Rule 314. It's on page 28 of the Federation Rule Book.
Hey, Rich,
Yes.
going back to your batter interference when the guy on second trying to steal third, if the pitch is high inside and knocks the batter backwards and the catcher decides to go behind him, it is not going to be interference on the batter.
Good point. Good point. Yes. If the actions of the hitter are not of his own volition, then it wouldn't be interference. That's correct. Does everyone understand that? That's a good point, Drew. Thank you. By the way, I know Rob mentioned that if guys have rules questions, or feel free to call me, that I'm supposed to be the so-called rule guy. We do have 3 rule interpreters in our group: Al Albert, myself, Andrew Fowler. Okay, so you can contact any of us. I'm always free to take phone calls, emails, if you have questions. Our assigners have a lot of work to do. They're very busy. I would bypass the assigner if you have a rule question. Not that they couldn't answer your question, but they've got so many other things to do. Why don't you go right to one of the interpreters if you have a rule question, situation like that. The last area I wanted to talk about, I was asked to talk about, is the strike zone. Rob touched on it in terms of being consistent, knowing what the strike zone's supposed to be, trying to stay that same way the whole game. Coaches want strikes, okay? Sometimes guys will walk up to a game to umpire a game and you'll hear comments. Well, this guy's got the postage stamp. You earn a reputation for your type of strike zone, or you better start swinging because we got Sam Smith umpiring today, whatever, whoever. You earn a reputation for what kind of zone you have. And what you want, this type of zone you want to be known for is a consistent zone. I've always said when people ask me questions about strike zone, that a fan 300 feet away watching from way down the left field line can tell if you miss a pitch up or down. They sure can't tell if you miss a pitch in or out. Same thing goes with the people in the dugout. I'm not saying that, you need to have a 21-inch wide plate. But what I'm saying is you don't have to make that pitch absolutely cover the outside corner of the plate, okay? You can, if you maintain consistency, you can have that pitch be right there, right at the outside edge, and you consistently can ring that strike up. But at the same time, when that pitch comes across at the shoulders, you don't want to consistently call the pitch across at the shoulders a strike, because now everybody says, hey, this guy keeps missing pitches up there. And it's obvious because they can see that from the dugout. And we know, experienced guys know that when somebody yells out of the dugout, where was that pitch? We always say it was in or out. We never say it was up or down, because we don't want them to think, because they know when it's up or down. And they usually don't ask them. They tell you it was up or it was down. But when they think it's got the corner, they ask you, and you just, you tell them it was wide or whatever it was. So maintain some consistency. We know what the strike zone is. We know where it's supposed to be. If you read the Federation rule book, it says from the middle, halfway between the shoulders and the waist and down to the knees. Now, it doesn't say the top of the knee. It doesn't say the bottom of the knee. It just says the knee. And you have to develop your own zone. Sometimes you get a pitcher that is consistently at the knee. And I think over the course of innings, you probably find yourself calling strikes that are a little bit lower because that guy is consistent.
All the rooms upstairs.
Question? I hear somebody talking. Is somebody having a question or? Okay. The strike zone is, rule 235. If you need to see the definition of it, you want to maintain your integrity when it comes to calling the strike zone. Okay? It's pretty much that simple. I see Mike's put up the emails and phone numbers for the rule interpreters. My email's not up there. It's my last name at sbcglobal.net for any of you who want to contact one of us. That's fine. And like I said, I'm more than willing to take those calls. If the other guys are busy, feel free. If you want me to be your first option, that's okay. That's pretty much what I have, Paul, unless somebody has more questions or wants to add.
No, Rich, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hey, I just want to point out that we have 5 new members this year in this meeting right now. We have Ernie Roth. He's from the north side, up toward up toward, I think Niles or Wilmette. Judy Byrne, the secretary over at Notre Dame, suggested that he join our organization, so we want to welcome Ernie. Royal Woolfolk is here also. He is Wayne Williams' nephew, I think, or related somehow to Wayne. So he is here in the audience tonight. Noah Kaufman is a new member this year. He was referred to us by Steve Shaw. I guess he's been doing some umpiring. He's also a student at Northwestern. Mike Weber is with us tonight. That's Pat Weber's younger brother. Mike did his first varsity game up at Montini the other day, and he had a great time with Carl Lucas, and he said he had enjoyed it very much. And then lastly, I hope I get, and I'm Polish, and I'm going to look this up real quickly here. Paul Wosikwi is also in with us. Dan Marshall referred him to our program, and Dan, I guess Paul used to officiate a few years back, and he's rejoined our organization. So I want to thank all 5 of those guys for being in our meeting tonight. So thank you very much for that. The only other thing I want to talk about tonight is just, updating Arbiter, making sure that your blocks are up to date. If you can't work a game, I think that from an assigner standpoint, that's all we need to know. We understand circumstances occur. This year is going to be really difficult. Every year, I'm getting 3 or 4 things from umps saying that they're in need of umpires daily. So I think that you guys have done a great job. Our needs for this week are very minimal. Right now, who knows what's going to happen with the weather and things like that as we move forward. I know we need 1 umpire at Leo tomorrow at Chicago State to work with Rob, a varsity game. So if there's any underclass guys that want to go out there and work with Rob, Rob will be a great mentor for you. That game is at Leo at Chicago State. They have a turf field out there. We have a second spot to work with Royal up at St. Joe's. St. Joe's is playing a JV schedule, but the great thing about St. Joe's is that they want 2 umpires on their JV games, and they're going to pay them $75 the varsity rate. So this is a great opportunity for our younger guys to actually work 2-man. It's JV games. I'm not saying you should make mistakes, but it's a situation where if we do have an umpire that has a few varsity years with them and they want to work with a younger guy, that would be great. So we do have an opening at St. Joe's tomorrow. St. Joe's is playing Providence JV. We have an opening there, and we do have 1 opening at Providence tomorrow, a frost-off game at Providence. That's really the only 3 openings that we have, and then I think we have an opening on Saturday. But other than that, this week right now is pretty good. So I want to appreciate everybody for looking at that. Look into May now. I know May 4th and May 5th, we have some issues in regards to some underclass games. So please look at the games that you can take. Look at self-assigned. Remember what we talked about at the beginning. If you blocked your date, those self-assigned dates are not going to come up. Does any of the other board members have anything that they want to say here before we end this meeting?
Not me.
I do not.
I noticed that Chuck Graber had his hand up. Was that accidental, Chuck?
No, I was just commenting on the batter interference on a runner stealing. I had a play last week where the batter took a swing at a high outside pitch. Catcher threw the ball, and the ball hit the bat. Didn't hit the player, and the player was just following through and did not interfere his body, but the bat did. I thought it was a no call, and I was thinking about whether or not I should kill the play, but it's still a live ball. But the batter was retired. It was strike 3, which doesn't make any difference. But I'd like to get Rich's opinion on that.
Chuck, I agree. It's a live ball. Catcher it's bad luck on the catcher's part. If there was no interference, it's just a bad throw.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I want to thank all the 20 plus members that are here. I think we ended up with 24, 25, somewhere right around there. I mean, this is great. We will have our meeting in May, probably either the third Sunday in May. May 9th, I know is Mother's Day. We will not have it on that day, but we're probably either looking at the 16th or the 23rd. We'll probably be looking in regards to, what's a better day for that. And then hopefully, we can get together live in person so we can sort of celebrate this year at some point. But again, I want to thank everybody. We've really had a really good year so far. So we have 5 weeks to go with the high school season. And as we said, let's keep plugging at it. So, hey, thanks for everybody for joining in today. And we'll see you somewhere on the field, hopefully. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.